Good morning, everyone. Now, today, once again, we are going to discuss topic Python functions. Yesterday, we have discussed a little bit about different types of function and how we can use a function with or without arguments or parameters. When you are using arguments with parameters, how you have to use those functions and how you have to call those functions. Now today, in continuation of yesterday's topic, I'll explain to you passing parameters and returning functions or returning the values from the function. How you will pass, or what are the different ways through which we can pass the arguments, and how we can use a return statement. It means how we can return the values from one function to another function. There are two ways, means here what we are discussing, just you have to keep in your mind that the parameters are passing the values from one function to another function, but after calculation, if you want some value to pass from one function to another function, then how we will pass those values, that also we will discuss today in this topic. Now we will start passing parameters. Actually, Python supports following way to pass the values through arguments. Number one, positional argument. Here we have three different ways: positional argument, default argument, and keyword argument. Yesterday we have discussed what is the use of arguments or the parameters. Just keep in your mind that whenever we are talking about the parameters or the arguments, these are the ways to pass the values of one variable into another variable from one function to another function. You have a function A and you have a function B. From the function A, if you want to pass some values to B, then directly it's not possible. So we need then a parameters to pass the values from one function to another function. You can pass the values from any function to any other function. There is no boundation. So here how we can pass, there are the three different ways now we are discussing here. That's a positional argument, then default argument, and then the keyword or named argument. Now positional argument, as name suggests, it's very clear that it is related to the position of the argument. It follows the sequence of variable declaration, in which it means that in which sequence we have declared the variable, in the same sequence the values will be passed. For example, in this example, I'll explain you. Here I have explained you a simple example, and in this example I have used this sum. This is a definition of the function, and this is, here I am calling this function by passing the value 5, 6 and 7. So now this is at the first position, this is at the second position, this is at the third position, this is at the first position, this is at the second position, and this is at the third position. So this 5 will be received by A. It means the first position will be received by the first position's variable. Then the second position will go to the second position, and third position will go to the third position. It means the positional means if the variable is at first place, it will receive the first value. In the second place will receive the second value. At the third place will receive the third value. I hope it should be clear. Now you see that I'm just using another, I'm calling once again it, and I'm using the values 7, 6 and 5. Now here you can see in the different way. Now this 7 will be received by this A, this 6 will be received by B, and this 5 will be received by C. It means at which position this 7 is written at the first position, this A is written at the first position. That's why the value or the formal argument A will receive the value 7. This 6 is written at the second position, the B is at the second position, so the 6 will be received by B. So the positional argument, it means in which sequence we have declared the variable and in which sequence you are passing the values. In the same sequence, first will receive the first, second will receive the second, and third will receive the third value. I think it should be clear. Now the next, you come in the default argument. Here I'll just explain to you something about the default argument. The default arguments in a function header, any parameter can have a default value unless all parameters appearing on its right have their default values. What it means actually, if you see here, I have defined this function. This function I have defined here. What is that? Simple interest. In this one, I have written principal, rate, and time, PRT. And at the last one, for the time, I have given the value 2. Now this 2 is a default argument. Yesterday we have discussed. Now what is the another method through which we can give up values to the default argument? First just I will explain you these three steps or these three concepts. The first one is already I have explained to you this one, that if simple interest, I'm just calling it, then PRT, first the value of T I'm passing here. So this is okay. But now you have to keep it in your mind that whenever you are calling the function, and if you are calling it in this way, if you want to give the value R, it means the default value, to the rate, then you cannot give until and unless you have not assigned the value this T. It means if the value is not assigned to T, then it's not possible to give the value to the R. It means first, whichever variable you are going to assign, or for whichever variable you are going to assign the value, before that you must have to check either it's any variable, if any variable at the right hand side is there, and if it is not assigned by any value, then this statement is wrong. I hope it should be clear. In another example also you can see the simple interest. This I have given P, R, and T is not there. It means until unless you are not giving the value of T, you cannot give the value of R. Here, okay, you can see that the right hand side I have given the value of R and the P then I'm giving, but before that this T must have some value, then it won't work. Again, this statement is also not correct. This is also incorrect statement. Now you see the third one. If you want to give all the default values to the parameters as you have given T equal to 2, R equal to 10, and P equal to 1000. So here this is a correct example, because whenever you are assigning the value, all are having the values or the default values. It doesn't mean that you has to give the values for all. Suppose if you are giving only for the T, then you can leave this P and R. But when you are giving to the P, you must have to give before that R and T. It means only P equal to 1000 is not possible if you are not giving the values of R and T. I hope it should be clear. So now you go back to the definition of default argument. In a function header, any parameter cannot have a default value unless all parameters appearing on its right have their default values. An example I have given to you here. One another thing you have to keep in your mind, as in this example, if you can see here, I have used two values, 1000 and 10. I have not used the value third value for the t. So in yesterday's video, I have explained to you why I have not given the value. It means if you have any one default argument, so you can leave one. Then if you have two default arguments, you can leave blank two arguments. It means the two. A very simple is, if you are not passing the value, the default argument will take its own value. So that many variable can be left blank in the call whenever you are calling the function. I think it should be clear. Now the third one is a keyword argument. This is a very important concept once again. If you will see in this example, in this way you can write the argument in any order provided you name the argument. Now suppose you have three variables. Again, the same example I am taking here, and this example I am taking is this simple interest, and here I have given P, R and T. These three values are there. Now in positional argument, when you are passing the value, then the first variable will receive the first value, second will second, and third one will receive the third value. But when you are using keyword argument and you are passing the values through the name, as if you will see the first example here, then second example here, and the third example here. Just I'll explain to you one by one. See the first example, I have passed the values, this simple interest, P equal to 1000, R equal to 10, and T equal to 2. Now you see that this P is written there, R is written there, and T is written there. Here P is written there, R and T is there. So this P will be received by P, R will be received by R, and T will be received by T. Now in another example, if you will see, I have taken this one, SINT, simple interest, and P equal to this one, 1000, T equal to 2, and R equal to 10. Now in this way, once again you can see that now there is no sequence. I have not followed any sequence, but I have given the name P, T and R. Now the P will be received by P, this T will be received by T, and this R will be received by R. I think it should be very clear that when you are giving keyword arguments, you are giving the name to each and every variable, and when you are passing the values also you are naming the same things, and then you can place in any sequence. Then doesn't matter in which sequence you are giving the values, the same value, it means the R will be received by R, T will be received by T, and P will be received by P. In the third example, you can see here, in this third example, you can see that what I have used, R, first R, then T, and then P. Now the R, but when the values will be passed, this R will be received by R, this T will be received by T, and this P will be received by P. I hope it should be very clear to you that how the positional argument, how the default argument, and how the keyword argument works. Now the next, here one very important concept of the function is returning values from the function. Function in Python may or may not return value. It can be classified in two ways basically. The first one is a function returning some values or some value. This is a non-void function, and function not returning any value, that's a void function. Here just keep in your mind this void and non-void. I'll just explain to you later on. First, just I'm giving to you a idea of return statement. See, very simple. If you are just calculating and you want to print it, so you can see in the first example here, in this first example, what I have done, I have used C equal to A plus B and then return C. Now keep it in your mind that here I am using return C, but if you will see in another example this side, I am using print C. So in this way, the first example you want to return the value, you want to use that value in another function, but in the second example you don't want to return the values. So when you are not using return statement in this statement, then what will be the answer of this first result equal to sum 2 comma 3. This sum will be called here, it will be executed and the value of C will be printed. So 3 plus 2 equal to 5. And the second statement, very important, then this print result, it will give you none. Why it will give you none? Because you have not used the return statement. So when you have not used the return statement, this sum 2 3 will not assign its value to the result, and that's why this result will not print anything. This will give you the none. But in this way, in this example, you can see here I am using return C. Now if you will use this example, so it will give you both values, sum 2 3 and the print result. It means it will give you the 5 in this case. What actually is the meaning of return statement and why we are using the return statement? Very simple. Suppose you have to return something to your friend. You have to return 2 rupees or 3 rupees or 4 rupees. So when you are returning something to your friend must be there to receive. In the same way, when you are using the return statement, you must has to call that function in any variable. I have written here 2 comma 3. If you will not write it, this one, then directly if you will call it, it will be wrong. So once again, very simple conclusion. When you are using return statement, you must have to call the function in any variable or directly with return statement, with print statement, or when you are not using return statement, directly you are printing the value there, then you can use directly you can directly call the function without using the variable. Suppose in this example, I have used return result equal to sum 2 comma 3. Then if I will write simply sum 2 comma 3, then that will be enough. But in this example, you cannot write sum 2 comma 3. Here you must has to use result equal to sum 2 comma 3. So I think it will be clear to all of you. If any confusion, you just ask me, then I'll explain it again. Tomorrow I'll give you some assignments related to this one. Thank you.